God doesn't hate you. He just doesn't care. Little Bites is a Shudder original, written and directed by Spider-One, a.k.a. Michael Cummings. Okay, serious, mature review here. Imagine if Michael Cummings was married to somebody with the last name of Goings. You'd have Cummings and Goings, just Cummings and Cummings, incessant amounts of Cummings. Okay, in all seriousness, he is also the lead singer of Power Man 5000. Yes, this is what it's like when worlds collide and nobody's real, which I believe was the theme for the short-lived show Freaky Links. I remember that show. I remember being excited about that show. I also remember being excited about the concept of Little Bites. So, you have Chrissy Fox, who was Jennifer in Terrifier 3. Terrifier 3, a very surprisingly good third entry in a franchise that I didn't necessarily care for before that. But nevertheless, she plays Mindy Vogel. Mindy, who is a mother that is really dealing with a lot of shit. Her husband's not there. She's got a lot of problems, and her daughter, Alice doesn't live anymore. Alice doesn't live here anymore. Alice, sweet Alice, all kinds of stuff. Alice in Terrorland, a worse movie, I'll say that much. Alice is staying with her grandmother, who is played by Bonnie Aarons. And if you don't know the name Bonnie Aarons, you probably know this. Yeah, Valak. Valak, the Vile Bequeather. I think that's how the phrase goes. By the way, Bonnie Aarons is a very, very, very talented horror actress. Nevertheless, let's just move on from that. You also have Barbara Crampton, who is 66 and looks oh so amazingly good. She plays a CPS agent. A CPS agent. It makes it sound like it's goddamn FBI. So, basically we have Mindy that has Alice staying with her mother, so Alice's grandmother. And we know this because we have like one fucking phone conversation with them. And the twist here is that Mindy is doing what she can to protect her daughter by letting a creature that lives in the basement take little bites out of her, slowly eat her alive. And one of the most glaringly obvious metaphors for how tough motherhood can be. Basically smacking you over the goddamn head with the fact that motherhood is tough. And look, there's no doubt that motherhood is tough. We all came from mothers, unless we came from test tubes. And if so, please let me know who the mother was that fostered your test tube. Nevertheless, let's talk about the fact that motherhood can be very tough. And for those who don't know, obviously, I would not know what it's like to be a mother. I lack the proper genetic material, the genetic code, and I would probably freak out if I ever somehow ended up being able to have a kid. It would just somehow be weird, because I couldn't handle it. That being said, those that have, been mothers are still mothers, whatever, whether your children are here, whether your children are not, there are surrogates, all kinds of stuff. Motherhood is very tough because you give and you give and you give. You put your body through absolute hell. You put your body through so many shape-shifting, organ, shifting, so many goddamn things that mothers do. And then they stay up, they take care of us. And even if the father's in the life of the child, the mother really is the central piece. Taking care, nurturing, all that, and doing everything. While mentally, they're fractured. They just want a break sometime. And that's the thing. A lot of parents do need breaks. And that is something that this movie does basically highlight. The problem, or at least the biggest problem of this particular movie, is it does it in the tone of what I would quantify as basically Touch of Satan with a bigger budget. If you know what Touch of Satan is, you know that's not a compliment. I don't mind slow burn movies. I like movies that build and build, even if it's just slowly, bit by bit, hence the term slow burn, with an eventual payoff. You feel like it's earned. You feel like these characters are justified. All these little building blocks and everything makes sense. And wow, the story paid off great. Here's the problem with this movie, or at least the biggest problem. It is an hour and 45 punishing minutes when it could have been 80 minutes. There are large chunks of this. Even though there are some neat little shots, there are some cool camera tricks, and there are a few cool things about this. But this movie could have easily been 80 minutes, accomplished the same goddamn thing, and somehow, even if it didn't end up being better, at least it would have ended up being shorter. That would have at least been nice. I do want to shout out Lindsay LaRose, who, good God, y'all. Google her. That's Lyndsy LaRose. And good God, what a beauty. By the way, Chaz Bono's also in this. Yes. Cher's kid. Speaking of Cher, they produced this, or executive produced this, and Chrissy Fox helped produce this, and apparently... Okay, the bottom line is obviously they had a small crew. A very small crew. Like, I'm actually amazed there are as many people in the cast as there are, since for a large chunk of the movie, you just have Mindy confined to her house. And again, that's okay, and Chrissy Fox is a capable actress, but this movie has almost no material that is worth stretching the fuck out like fucking taffy to the point that you just want the movie to end. And again, it has a good message. There are elements to this movie that could work, but it just is so goddamn unnecessarily long. And the pauses, my God, the pauses. Yes, the pain on Chrissy's face as she's, going through all this shit, trying to basically justify that, to an extent she's sort of running away from being a mother and everything, but sometimes you just need a break, but still you do all this. Sometimes people just crack, and yes, you don't want an Andrea Yates situation and stuff like that. You don't want that to happen, but you also need to sometimes it's good to have a support system. It's good to have people around you. The thing is, the movie also doesn't know what it wants to be, because it's not scary, except for the fact that it's an hour and 45 minutes with barely enough material to cover half. Also, Chaz Bono cannot act for shit. I just want to say that right now. I'm sorry. Can't at all. Chaz, not good. Chaz acting is the equivalent of Chaz in WWE becoming Beaver Cleavage. If you know that, you know that's not a compliment. Bonnie Aarons makes an on-screen appearance. And there are scenes that could work here, but there's just so much. At least 60% of this goddamn movie is unnecessary, which basically quantifies this could have been a short film. And accomplished the same goddamn thing, been nice, tight, scary, and done well. The thing is, by the time any of this stuff happens, by the time you get any payoff, you know where this whole thing's going to go. And yes, you need to have some kind of payoff, but there's not a payoff worth of goddamn shit here. It is not good. It is boring. It is bland. It wastes the resources and the talent in the cast. And Barbara Crampton just cannot basically last through a whole horror movie these days. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but it's not even really a spoiler. You can figure out who, is going to live, who's going to die, and if your interest is going to make it past the first 20 fucking minutes of this, because it barely did for me. And by the way, John Sklarov plays the creature named Agyar, that I just kept wanting to call Rygar, because apparently I cannot stop thinking about that NES game that got turned into a beautifully rendered PS2 game that didn't really have much variety in enemies. Anyway, shout out to Skarmer for that. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know why this has taken so long for me to get to the spoilers. Maybe I just need to rant about the fact this is really, really agonizingly dull. It has a good concept. It has a good cast. There are a few scenes that could have worked, but it's on Shudder if you want to check it out. If you aren't bored by this, I'll be amazed. Spoilers. So, yeah, basically, it turns out she lost her husband. Her husband isn't there. Maybe the husband was abusive. That could be actually something that they, they touch on. The thing is there are so many things that are said in this movie, but such long pauses that you forget some of the dialogue. Like, the dialogue just does not stick with you at all. The mother isn't necessarily super supportive because she's like, well, did you think I ran away from you? This kind of stuff. Look, some are capable of being parents, some aren't capable of being parents. I did laugh at the fact that Agyar does the bell ringing. Apparently, it's a Dario Cueto fan. Ring the bell! Feed me, Mindy. Mindy's Bakery. Oh no, great. CM Punk's gonna punch somebody backstage. No, he's a toxic person. No, I'm just going deep cut reference with a whole bunch of this stuff here. But, yes, so there's one scene where she goes to this grocery store that basically consists of 2 aisles. It's actually, I've seen supermarkets in rural towns that barely are bigger than a postage stamp that have more variety than that. It's like the grocery scene in Companion, which was another movie that was disappointing. But she sees Lindsay LaRose, who again, yeah. Beautiful. Mean that with respect. Absolutely beautiful. Now, that being said, this does center around Chrissy Fox, who does end up... She ends up being tired of being devoured. Her arms getting possibly infected, her legs getting infected, this kind of stuff. And Agyar just doing all this. And then Barbara Crampton, Sonia, keeps showing up as a CPS agent. Well, she says she's not there, but she'll come back another time. So Chaz ends up making one appearance at a bus stop, sitting down, which is probably the best use for Chaz. Doesn't have to actually do anything. And Mindy basically gets Chaz, Paul rather, who's not Paul anymore, Super Paul, gets Chaz back there because the idea is I'm going to get you somebody else, Agyar. I'll get you that so you can devour them instead of devouring me. Because I'm tired of this. She tries drugging the ice cream, and then Paul throws it up. She knocks out Paul, and basically Agyar won't eat her. Him. Sorry. Wants to eat her, won't eat Paul. That's what I meant. Sorry, this movie kind of pissed me off. So, nevertheless, Paul ends up eventually running out, which is kind of funny. The mother's basically telling her on the phone, look, like you need to do, you need to be there for your daughter. There's also an actress, Eleanor, who talks to her on a park bench and basically says there's 3 stages, for raising kids. You stand behind them so they don't fall. You stand in front of them so, you keep them from harm. And then you stand beside them so you can face adversity. And sometimes they can save us. I want to say this much. That scene actually wasn't that bad. And if the payoff came a little bit quicker and the build to it hadn't been so shit, then actually that would have been all right. I mean, it's so heavy-handed you're practically getting beaten over the skull. But that she has marks on her too. Maybe she's been Agyar this whole goddamn time. No, who knows? Who cares? I don't fucking care at this point. She calls her mother. It's time for Alice to come home. Oh yes, and by the way, at this point, Barbara Crampton has been killed. It was funny. Barbara Crampton did not make it. I don't know why that was funny to me. So basically, Alice gets home. Things are going good. Agyar is gone. Totally gone. But then she says, monsters are real, we need to go confront this monster. But, oh no, they've turned him loose. Turned him loose. This movie will not fucking end. Good God, it will not fucking end. And then suddenly, Bert from CPS shows up. I swear to God, I thought this was just Chaz and more makeup. I mean, seriously, the characters look the same. And checks on Sonia and talks to Alice, and don't worry, that's it. All Sonia ever wanted to do was talk to Alice, but because Mindy was not handling things well, she decided to kill her and have a creature devour her. I mean, as one would want to devour Barbara Crampton. I will not be speaking further on this. But yeah, then suddenly the creature shows back up and is talking to Alice and says, my name is Agyar. I'm a good friend of your mother, and that's how I know you. I'm not evil. You could fucking see there's something wrong with her. Him, it, whatever. And then suddenly they get locked in the red room over there. And Agyar's like, I'm everywhere. And then basically shows up, and there was one theme, or one, constant. This is something said earlier on. Once that kid gets back, I'm going to break you down, and I'm going to devour her, I'm going to devour you, except for your eyes, so you can watch me devour every bone in her body. Gross, but whatever. Then Alice asks, do you have a plan? Sometimes we have a plan, then we have to come up with a new plan. Mom, I think we should just kill him. So they get weapons. Alice says, I'm nothing like you. We're near the end, by the way, and this thing will not fucking conclude. But then, oh my God, she crawls and lets Agyar eat her. Bite her neck, and then that's it. And then Alice walks up and bites Agyar, and mother and daughter devour this combination of grief and hatred and suffering and whatever, and then everything's fine. Alice, a little bit later, Mindy is looking like Eleanor from earlier, and it's fine. She's figured out how to raise a kid. And then they show an older version of Alice. How many ever years have gone by? It felt like about 18 years went by watching this. Actually, it felt like about 4 decades went by. This movie had a few scenes that I liked, but the movie punished you for watching it. It beat you the fuck down. And this did get a limited release in theaters. I don't even think it was around, in my area. On October 4th. And it just went to Shudder. If it was available on Amazon, I did not get it before the end of the year. So I'm just going to put it in the top 25 or in the horror list for 2025 because it's my list and I can do what the fuck I want. And I'm giving it an F because it's not good. It's really not fucking good. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. And I'm John Retlin, and I'll see you soon.